corner.
That's too early, Henry.
Is the
I'm ready
side
to
by
go.
side a speaker?
Yeah. Am I good to go? Or
I think so. You can go.
My apologies. I'm just trying to still figure it out, but go ahead. You are recording now. We'll
okay.
edit this out.
Okay. Well, good morning for you, everybody. Happy Sabbath. Oh, wait, I don't have translation, right? I was waiting for someone to translate me. Um, Happy Sabbath. So it's 5:30 here in the afternoon. Um, I need to get used to this because I always have translation and I actually like it to have translation because it goes a little slower and you have time to think, etc. So um, we'll get there, I guess. Um, so yeah, I'm glad to be with you. Um, I spoke with Katja shortly before this meeting, and I asked if there's any questions, if there's a list of questions that she could send me from the group. There wasn't really a list of questions, but apparently you have had some discussion amongst yourself about the recent developments of the message of our understanding of Revelation 17 and the beasts and the heads. So I was thinking of just starting my presentation, and I think I will touch on things you've been discussing. But if there's any questions, I really would like you to speak up and ask a question, and I'll see if I can answer it or respond to it. But it should be a discussion really, or I would like it to be a chat rather than really a presentation from the beginning to the end, just me speaking. So if there's any thoughts, please share them. Questions, please. So yeah, that's that. Um, so before we start, I want to state that that um, that we deal with a few definitions. So we have some definitions in the past already, some weeks ago at the ICM they introduced the definitions of the woman, the head or the heads, and the beast. So I want to the definitions that we defined back there and that we have been using since then. I want to use them as the foundation of our study. It's not that they are not. It's not that you cannot question them or ask questions about the definitions, but that's in my mind the foundation of some of the things that I'm going to say. So a woman, we're saying, is an entity or something with an ideology. Um, with an ideology. And a head is a political institution. With power. And the beast is that same political institution with power that has adopted the ideology of the woman. Are there any questions about those definitions? And if you don't have it now, you can do it later, but Um, I, I want to use those definitions as we continue or as the foundation of our study.
Sure, I have a
So,
question, Arjan.
mhm.
I
Sure.
think this is one of the questions that came up in our discussions, previous discussions. Um, is it the ideology that makes the head a beast? So does it become a beast because it's being ridden by the woman?
That was the end of your question. All right. Yeah, short answer, it's yes, it's the ideology because I would suggest that the head always has an ideology. There's always an ideology, and that ideology is changing. At some point, it changes, and that that turns the head into a beast, really. So it is the change in ideology, yes. Um, and maybe as we go and look into this a little bit more in depth, we can touch on that or see where that's coming from. But my short answer is yes. Is that good for now?
Yeah, thank
Or
you.
did you have any thoughts yourself about it?
Uh, no. I guess my other question would be the reason why I'm asking is the head and the beast. Their definitions are synonymous, with the exception, if I understand what you're saying, with the exception of the beast is specifically become the beast because it's adopted the ideology of the woman. That's what we're saying. Okay.
That's what we're saying. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Mhm.
I'm just wondering if you might explain how the beast and the head are separate or the same. Because in the definitions,
Okay.
they're kind of different. And so, how are they different and the same or separated and the same?
Yeah, I get it. Okay. So when we go to Revelation 17, you're probably familiar with those verses in where um, it's verse 10 and 11. So with Revelation 17, 10. 17:10 talks about the seven heads. And what does it say about the seven heads? It says that there's a group that is fallen. There is one that is, and one that is not yet come. So I'll say it comes. So we're saying this is past, present, future from the perspective of Revelation 17. So present in Revelation 17. What is the present in Revelation 17? Anybody?
1798.
1798.
Yeah. So that's 1798. Exactly. So, and then we have 17 verse 11. And 17 verse 11 is basically a repeat and enlarge of verse 10, but also it's not. It's talking about the beast. Now it's talking about the beast, and it explains a little bit more because it says this, it gets this same riddle. You have this same riddle Here it says that the beast that was, so that's the past. And then in the present, is not. And then we have the next, even he is the eighth and is of the seventh and goeth into perdition. So something cometh. It's called here the eighth, but something that will come. How do you say eighth? So, so it's a repeat and enlarge, but at the same time it's not, because when you look at it, here there's this difference. You see that? Because in the present it says that there is a head. There is this head, but there is no beast. You see that? So people always have, and I understand, a difficulty with understanding the difference between the beast and the head, and is it not the same, or is not just the head a representation of the beast in a particular time period? Yes, that is true in a certain way, but there is also a time period where there is no beast, or there is a beast but it's dead. So what does that teach us? What does that mean? And when is the time period? It's the time period of the present in 1798. So Revelation 17, the present, is 1798, and in that present, there's no beast. The beast is dead, but there is a head. So we know that the present is 1798. We also know when we go to Revelation 13, if we go to Revelation 13, for example, then it talks about a lamb that rises up out of the land. So we have those, we have the sea beast, or we have a beast here, the first beast. We call it that way first. We have a lamb, and then it talks about the dragon. So,
Arjan,
and also, sorry, yeah.
would you be able to throw the wound into your chart?
Could you repeat that again? What about the wound?
You know how one of the heads is wounded to death?
Uh-huh.
Can you put that in your chart as well?
17, you mean 1798, the deadly wound?
Correct. Like the reason the wound is interesting to me is because like the first five kingdoms, they rise and fall, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't describe them as getting wounded. But essentially Babylon rises and then, gets wounded and falls, or gets killed and falls, or whatever. So it's interesting in the fact that it describes that, and exactly because we equate that to the papacy, right? But the kings would be the heads. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Or could you elaborate maybe on that thought a little bit?
Sure.
Essentially, the problem in my mind is that when we say that it was wounded to death, it was the woman that was wounded, essentially. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
Versus the 10 kings being wounded.
Um,
or if you don't want to touch
Yeah,
that,
no, no,
that's
no, no,
fine.
no. I'm thinking about it. The problem is that we deal with Revelation 13 here. And that's not a problem necessarily. The problem with Revelation 13, it's a different chapter. And I'm not sure whether you could use the definitions that we have made up from that we have defined from Revelation 17. You can use those same definitions for Revelation 13. I think you're going to get in trouble when you do that. So
That's probably
that will be
why.
my
Yeah,
first
you're right.
comment. Secondly, there was something I wanted to say.
I guess in my mind, my question was, is not like everything we know is that it's part of the was, essentially. But
Yes, but it doesn't continue. It does not continue.
anyways, I'm taking you off track. I think I'll
Yeah,
leave
no,
it. You're right. And the different chapter gets weird.
yeah, I think that's where Revelation 13 becomes. I'm not saying that. I mean, it's an important chapter and something we need to deal with. But I think that the primary one we should focus on is 17. And if we developed definitions from 17, and I don't think we can blindly take them into Revelation 13 and apply them there. I think we get into trouble when we do that. So Revelation 13 is on its own. Uh, there's no woman in Revelation 13. For example, it's not there. She's not described there. Um, so it's a little more complicated than that, I guess. Um, but I understand I understand your. There was something that came to my mind when you spoke, and it slipped. So maybe it comes back as we talk. Um, Something I wanted to say, but um, oh yeah, okay. A question I had when you spoke. Um, the deadly wound in your mind. Does that mean it? Does the deadly wound? Does that mean it's killed in your mind, or is it hurt?
Uh, well, like in my mind, before I would think that when it's deadly wounded, that's the is not, but that doesn't line up because the deadly wound happens to the fifth kingdom and it's in the sixth kingdom that it is not. And so um, I've kind of been struggling a little bit with that because there's a couple of um,
So
ways I could go on it, I guess.
Adventism has, I think, always, at least I did, when we talked about 1798 and the papacy and the deadly wound, that it was, I always had in mind, it means the papacy was hurt. And somewhere behind the scenes, it is going to develop and grow and it will rise again. But I think if you go to Revelation 13 and read from it, um, ooh, it talks about a deadly wound that is healed, but it also talks about verse 14, and they should make an image to the beast which had the wound by a sword and did live. So there was actually the deadly wound was a wound by a sword. And then if you go to verse um, 13, 10, it says, "He that killeth with a sword must be killed with a sword. Here's the patience of the here's the patience and the faith of the saints." So if you put those verses together, verse 10, verse 12, I think, verse 14, I think you can show that there's something that is really killed. It's killed by a sword. So it's not like there was some punch, it received a punch, it was just gone. And I think that's at least where I was in my mind, in my traditional Adventist understanding with 1798. And I think that's also where many Adventists end up getting into conspiracy theories when you think, oh, the papacy is behind the scenes and there is this, uh, uh, because we can't see it rise, but it must be there. The Bible says it must be there. So you go into conspiracy theories. That behind the scenes, behind everything we see in the news, there's something secret happening. And one of the reasons is, I think, that there was this idea that the deadly wound was just a punch. And I would argue, no, it's kill. It's really death, an end. And then there is a resurrection, but that's something different than receiving, you're a little hurt and you will grow again. No, there's a death, there's really a death, it's killed, and then there's a resurrection. And when we say there's a resurrection, it resurrects in a new body as Christ died and resurrects. But when it resurrects, Christ resurrects in a new body, in a new form. And so we also say the resurrection of that fifth kingdom is going to look completely different. And as traditional Adventists, we have been thinking about, oh, this is the resurrection of the papacy or the rise of the papacy again. It's this sleeping, hurt papacy that received a wound in 1798. It was hurt. It limped a little bit. It wasn't healthy, but it became more healthy through time. And now we're waiting for the time where it's going to be strong again, and it will be resurrected. No, that's not how I see it now. I see it, no, it was killed, and there will be a resurrection of that fifth kingdom, of that fifth uh, institution, basically. The system that was there is going to be rising up again, but in a completely different way. It's going to be a resurrection of the old into something new, in a new form, in a new body. And in between, there was not this beast, as according to Revelation 17. So when we talk about the definitions of Revelation 17, the beast here is, you could argue, well, there's seven heads and they are just the same thing as the beast. But then you get into trouble in the sixth kingdom, because there is no beast in the sixth kingdom and there is a head in this in the sixth kingdom. So there is a distinction between the head and the beast. That you get that from those two verses, and we need to deal with that. If we make it superficial, if and I understood that was a part of the discussion that you had in the group, is that if you have the seven heads and the beast, how do we know that there is this difference? I think that's where you get to these verses. There must be a difference between a head and a beast, because in the sixth kingdom you have a head and you don't have a beast, and we need to deal with that fact. So that forced us to look into this more and see that there is this distinction. And if we go to Revelation 13 only superficially, so to speak, you have this first beast, you have a lamb and a dragon. I think we, as Adventists, we know that this lamb-like beast is also this beast that rises up in 1798. So there is this lamb, a beast that is associated as lamb-like is connected with 1798. So there is this lamb here, there is a head, and there is no beast. So the fact that there is no beast makes it, in Revelation 13, makes it a lamb, because you have a beast here and you have basically a beast here. It's called a dragon, but dragon is the same thing. It's a beast and a beast. And in between you have this lamb. And what makes it a lamb? Well, I don't know. But if you go to Revelation 17, it makes it a lamb because here there's no beast. So there was a beast here, there's a beast here, and there's no here. What is there? There's 5 heads are here. There is a head here, and there is a head here. So I'm saying, and I think we all understand that lamb-like means, let's say, lamb-like means good, right? Compared to what this is. This is bad. Whatever bad and good is, this is how we've, as Adventists, traditionally seen it. You have this bad thing, then there's something good rises, and eventually you have this bad thing again.
And yet in verse 11,
Somebody wants to say something?
yes,
Oh,
Arjan, and yet in
Yeah.
verse 11, it calls him a beast, the lamb-like beast. I saw another beast coming out of the earth that had 2 horns like a lamb. So what do we
Revelation
do?
17. Yeah. Mhm.
Revelation 13:11. So what do we do with that? Do we consider that beast as different from our definition of the beast in Revelation 17? And do we just consider that to be an animal?
Yes, good point. I think there's this, what I just had before, what I mentioned before, is that there is this difficulty with the definitions between Revelation 17 and 13. I think, yes, it is. We see rise another beast, but I think it had some different characteristics compared to the beasts before and the beasts after. The characteristic of that beast is that it's lamb-like. So it has this positive characteristics, where all the other ones, that was like it had feet like a bear, a mouth like a lion, and a leopard. And so it was all those wild animals compared to this lamb-like beast. And then you have a dragon at the end. So that I see what you're saying. Yes, it's a beast. But I don't think we can use that definition of Revelation 17 and say, okay, then that lamb-like beast is also a bad beast, so to speak. Because I think when we look at Revelation 17, you see this, Revelation 13, you see this same pattern of bad, good, bad. I think that is not like a spectacular conclusion. I think that is traditional Adventist understanding, basically. You have a bad thing, something good rises, and then you will have something bad at the end. And yes, I understand the word beast is there, but I think for this discussion, should ignore that.
Aaron,
Is that fine? Yeah, sure.
I just want to throw one other thing into this conversation, and that is the fact that the beast is a mountain, and we understand mountain as a world-dominating empire. So we should see each head, like starting with Babylon, all the way the first 5 should all be world-dominating empires, because a beast is a mountain. So that makes the lamb, if it's a beast, it would also be a world-dominating empire. And then the dragon, it also has to be a world-dominating empire. So when the lamb, we call that the 6th kingdom, changes into the 7th kingdom, which is also the US, and now the US goes, you're suggesting that the lamb or the US goes from not being a world dominating empire to being a world dominating empire. But the sixth kingdom shows or the United States as the sixth kingdom, it's the currency of the world, everything else. It shows, I look at it and I see it as a world dominating empire, but a good empire. So I have a lot of trouble seeing the lamb as not a legitimate beast because it fits the definition of being a mountain. And it has its own head. It doesn't rely on the seven heads of the sea beast, which is the beast of Revelation 17.
Sure. So, you took from my words, I guess that I say because don't use the word beast, that it's not a world dominating power. I think I agree with what you said. So, um, I see the sixth kingdom just as all the other kingdoms. It's this, as you described it, a world dominating power. And all the kingdoms before were, and the seventh is going to be that as well. The only difference is that the sixth is, let's say, it's good. It's a good version of it. Um, so I don't
So it's a,
disagree with I don't
so
disagree
it,
with that.
so it's a beast, but it's not the beast of Revelation 17.
No, that's why I said let's not use the word beast here because it's going to confuse if we use the definition of Revelation 17. I know 13 uses the word beast. It is a beast. It's the beast of Revelation 13. If we are going to use the definitions of 17, because 17 says there is no beast in 1798.
But isn't the beast in Revelation 13 the beast in Revelation 17? It's just that it's the sea beast and not the earth beast.
Um,
They're both in
Revelation,
Revelation 13.
Revelation 13 describes 1798 as there is this lamb-like beast rises up out of the land beast.
I
And,
see. It
and
says, stood on the.
Revelation 17, Revelation 17 also says 1798. It says there's no beast. So the beast in Revelation 13 and the beast in Revelation 17 are not the same thing. At least
I
not the
know.
lamb.
I agree. Well, I agree and I disagree. I would say I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise out of the sea, having seven heads, 10 horns, and upon those horns, 10 crowns. This is describing the beast of Revelation 17.
Okay,
And
yeah,
then
the first beast, yeah.
In Revelation 13, it says, and I beheld another beast. Another means separate and distinct. That's the definition of another. So a
Yes,
separate and distinct beast rises out of the earth. So we
yeah.
have two beasts, one that Revelation 17 goes through and describes, and two in Revelation 13. Revelation 17 doesn't say anything about, really talk anything about the second beast, the sea beast. I mean the
All right.
earth
Yeah.
beast.
Yeah, sure. I think Revelation 12, 13, 17 all tell you the same story, but tell you it a little different from another. So those beasts there are telling you the same story. It's those several heads, horns, crowns. It's this same. It's a repetition. It's like the Gospels, but every Gospel teaches you something different about the life of Christ, or about, and that's all those. You have the seven, yeah, the four chapters in Daniel, chapter 2, 7, 8, 11, tells you the same story over and over again, but it teaches you something different. And I think that's what 12, 13, and 17 do as well. Um, and like we do with Daniel 2, you cannot take a symbol from Daniel 2 and apply it in Daniel 8 because Daniel 8 talks about beasts, Daniel 2 talks about metals. So it's not one on one. It's a different parable, but
Different perspective.
but but a different perspective, yes. And I think that's 12, 13, and 17 as well. So it's tricky to merge them into one story. So that's why I try to stick with 17, and I only touch on 13 only to basically remember of what we already know is that there is this lamb-like beast that we see in 1798. And I only want to show that in 1798, Revelation 13 says there is a head, there's not a beast. Revelation 13 says there is this good beast. Um, so the point I want to make there is a difference between the beast and the head. And the fact that there is no beast in Revelation 17 in 1798, the falling, the taking out, the death of that beast makes that kingdom a good kingdom. So that beast is something that makes it bad. And when that falls away, you only have a head left, and then suddenly it's good. So
Okay.
that brings us to the next point, is that heads are good. Because if you only have a head, Revelation 17, if you only have a head, you end up having a good kingdom.
I have a
That's
question. Sorry, I have a question about the is and the is not. So this is the head being alive and the body being dead. Is that kind of what we say?
I know that's the picture. Parables have their limitation. So I would argue that the beast and the head are two distinct things.
So how is okay? So if you're saying that, then
Because you can
help
have
me
a
to
head without a
understand.
beast.
So if you're saying that they're two separate things, help me to understand what that looks like in another dispensation, let's say Babylon. How is the
Well,
head separate from the beast in Babylon?
just as it is in the sixth.
No, I want to I want you to try and explain it to me because the sixth we know is a special case. We got a good beast and a bad beast, but I just want to try and understand the idea
No,
between this
there's no good
difference of a
beast.
head and a beast.
There's no good beast in Revelation 17. So stick with
I'm
17.
okay, sticking with 17. There is no good beast.
There's no good beast. There's just a head. There's just a head.
No, there's a beast with seven heads.
Yeah, but it's dead in 1798. It's
Correct.
not. It's
So
not. It says verse 11. It says it's not.
correct. I agree with that. I agree with that. But I agree. I see. I have trouble. You even said it today. You said we look at death and resurrection, and we see Christ as a model for death and resurrection. So if we see Christ as the model for death and resurrection, then we see that he was born and he lived, so he was until he died at the cross. And then we'll say he is not. There's a time period when he doesn't exist on earth. And Elder Parminder even argued that at Christ's death on the cross, he died the second death because he had the sin of the world on him. And so he was blotted out of existence. So on his death, he's completely blotted out of existence. He doesn't exist on the earth in any form or fashion, and he certainly doesn't exist at all because he's blotted out of existence. And then he resurrects, he comes back to life, and he has a new body, like you described. So for me, the model of death and resurrection is this. This is the model. And I cannot see using this model that Christ's head was alive when he was dead. There is nothing you can say because I have that model for death and resurrection, and I don't think you can come up with another model except the verse 10 and 11 that might suggest something else for what is not means. Is not to me means that you are blotted out of existence for a time period. And I would say that both the head and the body are blotted out of existence for a time period. That's the only way I think I can see this.
Okay, I get it, but that's not in agreement with verse 10, because there are seven heads, and
I agree
and
with you. I
and
think the
there
model is wrong. And I
what
can
model?
demonstrate the model that why your model that you're suggesting here is wrong,
Yeah.
and that there is a correct model.
Okay. Interesting. And that's what you just explained.
Yes,
Okay. Based on Christ, because you're saying the head of Christ was
was
not
not
gone,
alive.
was not
I'm
alive.
I'm
What is the
saying
head
that
of Christ? What is the head of Christ?
his head, like you have a head. We could say it in this way too. All of the people that have ever existed, like, your great grandfather, he is going to be resurrected at some point. Either it's the first resurrection or the second resurrection. So there's a period of time when he does not exist on this earth. He was, and then he died. He doesn't exist until he is resurrected. His head is not alive because that suggests something other than our understanding of what death means.
Sure, okay. But then you make the head and the beast the same thing and interchangeable, because and you take that beast, it has a head, um, so you cannot have a head without a beast in that model that you have.
Correct.
You, correct. Okay. Well, I, I'm trying. I'm using the model of Revelation 17 in this discussion. So maybe in your application that might work. But if you
I think
go
I'm
to it,
using Revelation 17 as my model for this.
because Revelation 17 teaches you that there is a head, but there's no beast.
No, not exactly. It
That's what
basically, when
I
it
have
says
here.
it was wounded but did live, like the
That's
deadly.
Revelation 13. That's not
Sorry,
Revelation
sorry,
17.
sorry. You're right. It
Revelation
says
17, Revelation 17 says there is a head. There's seven heads. And in 1798 you have a head, but there's no beast.
I completely agree with that.
So let's continue on that model.
Okay. So you have five. You want to write it out the way,
No,
just put
it's
a
here.
line.
It's here on the screen.
Okay.
You have
Five that were fallen was.
fallen. You have one is there is a head.
No, I don't say the is there.
That's what the
You're
verse
reading
says.
it wrong. I suggest you're reading it wrong.
Okay, well then, okay,
So,
sure,
so just let me explain how I would read it. Five was,
sure.
is not, is to come. Eight,
So there are four.
pardon? That makes it eight kingdoms, eight world dominating empires, seven belonging to one group, eight in total.
Eight.
Eight in total.
Okay.
Murray,
Yeah.
I think we possibly want to allow Aryan to continue.
Sure.
I would just toss in one comment, if I may, in terms of um, your model using Christ's example. His head and his body both not existing. It's how one defines head, and even those who are resurrected again at the end of the millennium to have the execution of, in essence, the second death. there is something that has continued that could possibly be symbolized as head, the mind, the essence of the person, whatever. But I think that's a different conversation, and we possibly want to let Arjan continue at this point.
Can I
He's
just make
noted your
yeah,
your
I will
interpretation.
I will sign off, but I'll just comment on your comment. We know from the study of the nature of a person that our body is just our house and we are spiritual beings. And so I understand that the body and us are separate things. So the body can be dead, but we're asleep during that time period. But I'll stop and I'll let you guys continue.
Can I add something quickly?
Sure.
Just to understand is that when we talk about the head and the beast, we are talking about entities, but you, Marie, you are talking about individual. So I think that we are looking at two different models here as well.
I
And
can support my claims for an entity, and I would suggest you would take Israel, ancient Israel, it was, and then ancient Israel went into captivity. It is not, and then it resurrected again. It is again. The is comes after, but there's a time period on this earth when ancient Israel didn't exist. So if you want to look at it not as a person, you're saying that the model I used of death and resurrection of Jesus doesn't fit because he's a person. I'll give you the model of ancient Israel, death and resurrection. And the resurrection comes at the third decree. And that starts the countdown for the 2,300 days and the 490 years, the 70 weeks. So I can support it with not using Christ as well.
okay, just want to not to give back some time to Arjan. But I think what it's important is that we try to remain within the same chapter without going into any other things, because what we've learned is that a chapter should be able to stand on its own. It's supposed to be its own witness. So once we have those foundation here, then we can look at other places. So I think it's important that we have those other models, but just wonder how they fit then into the context of Revelation 17. So maybe it's more thoughts into more things to look at for sure.
Thank you, Katja. Yeah, I think that was a good additional thought, that Revelation 17 should stand on its own and should work on its own without looking to other chapters. So that's what I've tried to do here, to say, like, if you take those two verses, you can only conclude that there is a distinct, whatever the distinction is, there is a distinction between the head and the beast. And when you read this chapter, and I did in the past as a Adventist, traditional Adventist, when you read that chapter, you think like, oh, heads and beasts, they're the same, basically the same thing. You have the devil that is whatever, showing up in seven different forms, and that those seven forms, they can never be disconnected from the devil. Whatever crazy ideas we've had, I think really going into the verses, and especially those two then here in this particular case, shows you that the head and the beast are can stand on their own also. So there is a head here in, we have a head, the sixth. If we look at the sixth, there is a head, and there's no beast. And that suddenly makes this sixth kingdom, makes it good. So oh, that's not a head, actually, it says something different. So, because this sixth is demonstrated as different than everything that was before, as it also is described in Revelation 13. So you have this lamb-like beast that is different from what there was before and what is going to come after. So there's this distinction. And the distinction is that there is no beast, but there is a head. And the other thing is that the sixth is not the only one having a head. It's actually all the ones, all those kingdoms, the five before, and the one that is to come, they all have a head. And if that head, this head is something good, that's what we can see here in the sixth kingdom. The sixth kingdom only has a head, which makes it good. But the other kingdoms have a head too. But they are not pictured as good. So there's a reason for that, and we need to find out why. So we've been looking at, so if we put it on a line, so these are the seven kingdoms. They all have a good head, a head, a head. They all have a good head. This one has a head. This one has a head. And then this one has a beast. A beast. 5 beasts are fallen. One is not, and the other one is yet to come. So there is this basically good and bad element in those kingdoms. And if one falls away, or is not there, or is dead, then this kingdom is good. So then we look at the sixth kingdom. What is the sixth kingdom? We know the sixth kingdom is the kingdom that rises in 1798. It's what Anna White describes as the USA rising in 1798. It has 2 horns. It's described as republicanism and Protestantism. So republicanism, Protestantism are the characteristics that you could say that mark the USA here at the beginning. And Protestantism doesn't mean it's a Christian nation. Protestantism means it protests. It's against everything that persecutes. It's against everything that is basically, you could say republicanism is you fight for the right for you have the right to self-govern, I would say. And Protestantism is the right to follow your conscience. You cannot have persecution based on what you believe. Whether that's religious, it doesn't necessarily have to be religious, this Protestantism element. It's just the right to be someone, to be who you are. Protestantism is the fight for feminism. Protestantism is the fight against racism. Protestantism is the fight against sexism. It's the right to be who you are.
Human rights.
Human rights, yes, sure. So that's what republicanism and Protestantism in its essence stand for, and that's what is demonstrated in the USA in the beginning as this country, this land, this lamb-like beast, or this sixth kingdom that has the potential to become this glorious land. It's the glorious land, but the glorious land should uh, progress. It has the potential to make progression, because it's not like perfect or something in the beginning, but it has this potential to become to grow and develop. So because we have those two symbols and they are distinct, we need to understand what they are. Uh, and we have the woman there. This woman is there as well. And there's this tricky verse also. I think it's verse 3 of Revelation 17, where it says, "The woman sits on all heads. And she carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns." Um,
And
so
verse 9.
this, and verse 9, "And here is the mind which has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth." Exactly. So I would suggest that those verses, verse 3, but also verse 9, is what we call um, um, a panoramic view. So what is a panoramic view? So you have a panoramic view. A panoramic view is you demonstrate something that is, you demonstrate something from the beginning to the end, and you demonstrate it in such a way that it doesn't change. It's it's uh, it's a beast here, and it's a beast here, or it is yellow here, and it's yellow here, whatever. Panoramic means you you give a perspective from the beginning all the way to the end, but it is what you see at the beginning is also at the end, and what you see at the end is also at the beginning. It's this alpha and omega perspective. If you have a beast at the beginning, there's a beast in the middle, and there's a beast at the end. There's yellow all the way through. It's a perspective different than this dispensational view. If you have dispensational, you look at the same time period, but it says 5 are fallen in this time period. Here, there's none, and here, there's one again. That is dispensational view. So you look at the same time period, but the symbols or the elements in that story are not always the same. So in this time period, here, there's this beast. There's no beast here, and there will be a beast here. So this is not panoramic view. Although it's talking about the same time period, it's not a panoramic view. So as it is described in verse 3, you have this woman, and it sits on the beast, and it has 7 heads and 10 horns. Or I think in verse 18, "And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth." If you look at verse 18, and you see, oh, this is the time period of the kings of the earth. So this is the time period of the 7 kings, the 7 kingdoms. According to verse 18, the woman sits always on top. There's a woman here, and there's a woman here. and there's a woman all the time in there. So that's panoramic view. It doesn't look at specific times in that time period, but it gives you a perspective, a broad perspective, and it's the same from the beginning all the way to the end. And so that's what makes those verses tricky, because you have verse 18 here, you have verse 9, verse 3. Um, um, Verse 18, you could argue, well, the woman always sits there. It's always riding on the kings of the earth. It's always in control.
I got a
And
question.
yeah,
Okay, just going back into that picture there with the heads and the beast, go a little bit further up, right there. So could we put a woman under each one of those categories with the heads? But the difference is because it's a beast that the ideology of the woman could not be enforced.
so you're asking, where's the woman in this picture, basically?
In other words, could it be that the woman is also still in the sixth because it's riding all the heads, but it can't be enforced because the beast isn't present because that's the enforcement of the woman. So it's not,
I see what
yeah.
you're saying. Yes. So yeah, to know where the woman is in the story, we need to know what she is and what she wants. So we have 7 heads, and those 7 heads represent 7 kingdoms. Those 7 heads represent 7 kingdoms, and those kingdoms are good kingdoms. 7 heads, because a head, that's what we learned from here. That's what I learned from here. From this story here, I learned that a head is a good thing. Because the 6th kingdom only has a head, and the 6th kingdom is represented as a good kingdom. So the head is good, but there's not one head. There's 7 heads. So all the 7 heads are good things. So the 7 kingdoms, the 7 heads, a head is a kingdom, or the head is a king, or a king is a kingdom. So there are 7 kingdoms, and all those kingdoms are there for good reason. Kingdoms, what's the purpose of a kingdom? What's the purpose of a king? It's to govern. It's to protect a group of people that lives at a certain place. It's to serve that people that live at a certain place, and there's this king ruling over them. And ruling isn't necessarily a bad thing if you do it the right way. So this kingdom is there, and now the part of the story, if you look at Revelation 17, it's like what is it what the woman wants? The woman wants to ride those kingdoms. It wants to have control over those kingdoms. So there is this good entity or a good institution. You call it a kingdom, and the woman wants to have control over that kingdom. This woman it's described here in Revelation 17 as, let's say, a bad woman. So it is a bad woman that wants to have control over a good institution. A kingdom is a good institution. And this woman wants to control this good institution and turn it into a bad institution. So
So
the
that
woman.
sounds
So
that sounds to me like the bad woman is there in 6, but she has no control because the beast is dead.
sure.
Well, Commander says she's on vacation.
Yeah, she's on vacation. She's there, but she's not interested. And that's, I think, what makes the 6th unique, because the 6th kingdom is a different kingdom from all the ones before. The 6th kingdom is set up here in 1798, and in the time period before, in this, you have the American Revolution and the setting up of this kingdom. and you have this government set in place with the three branches, and you have the Congress and the House of Representatives, you have your judicial element, you have the executive element, you have the legislative element. So there are those checks and balances. Also for just the executive branch, there is checks and balances where the president doesn't have ultimate, uncontrolled, unrestrained power. It is limited to what the president has. So this kingdom, the place where the real power is, it's basically before in those five kingdoms here. It's the place where the king is, where the king sits on the throne. This is where the real power is. This is the place where the woman wants to have their control. So if you go and look to the sixth kingdom, you're like, where is the real power in the sixth kingdom? It's there where the president is. But the woman, as soon as she saw that throne, she was like, that's not good enough. Not for me. Because she wants to have control. She wants to have control over a seat that has unrestrained power, where she can do what she wants. And this throne here in the sixth kingdom, it is well organized. It is protected. It has several institutions that protect it. You have those three branches, the checks and balances. So this seat here in the sixth kingdom, she's not even interested. She's like, oh no, I'm not interested in that seat. I'll look for something else. Or as Elder Parmina said it, you know what? I'll go on a holiday. I'll check sometime later. I'll check it again.
So, Aryan, sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt.
sure.
So, in this sixth kingdom, she's not riding the head.
No.
Okay, so then how is it that then she only rides six heads?
Yes.
Okay, but it says in verse 9 that she rides seven mountains, seven heads.
Yeah, sure. It says it in verse 18. It says it as well. That's the verse I just referred to, the panoramic view.
Right, but we're missing a head. If she's not riding six, then she's only riding six heads. There's not a seventh because she's missing one. If she's not riding it.
She's riding the beast with seven heads.
Okay, so she's so if the but okay.
Could we say that the eighth would be that seventh head that it is riding?
The eighth is a different story, sure. I don't want to go into the eighth at the moment, but yes, the eighth is a symbol of a resurrection of something new. The eighth is a symbolic number in the Bible as resurrection, as a new beginning. The eighth day was the boys were circumcised. The eighth day is the resurrection of Christ. The eight people in the Ark of Noah entering into a new world. The eighth marks the beginning of something new. It's a resurrection of something old. That's the symbol eight. And the eighth is just the seventh. It's a resurrection of the fifth. And it's called the eighth to show that it's a resurrection of something. It's something new. It's something that comes back. But I don't want to get into that eight in detail. But that's in a nutshell how I see the eighth as because it's seven all the way through Revelation 17, Revelation 7. Sorry, it's the number seven through all the book of Revelation. You have the seven churches, and we also say there is this eighth church. We call ourselves the eighth church, but there's no eighth church there. The eighth church that we say we are, it's the first. It's Ephesus. So you have Laodicea church, the seventh, and then there is this follow-up church, which is not there, but it's there. But it's the first. So it's just a resurrection of something that was before. It's yeah. So you have seven churches, and it's all a chronological, a sequential. They follow after each other. You have the seven churches, you have the seven seals, the seven trumpets, seven heads. It's kingdom after kingdom after kingdom after kingdom, or trumpets, or you have those seals. It's events that are sequential, and so is the seven. Sorry, and so is the seven heads. They're sequential kingdoms, follow one after the other. And then there is this eighth mention. It's where it basically says this last one is um, is a repetition or is something new that we've seen before. It's a resurrection of particularly the fifth. But anyway,
Arjan,
I think I think. Oh yeah.
Just a quick comment. Sorry, I won't.
Yep.
I think based on Adventist understanding, even from a long time back, seven was viewed as God's perfect number, completeness.
Yeah.
But also it was looked at eight as, in a sense, sort of being the number that Satan wanted to, I'll just say, work with. I think it broadens beyond that by far, just by what you're, circumcision, seven churches, all the other understandings that we've had. But just wanted to toss that in.
No, thank you.
And
So,
can I just say something short? In Elder Parminder's first talk last Sabbath, he was talking about our biases, and I think I'm kind of like that too, and I can relate to Murray. Sometimes we find ourselves reading very literally and the words in a verse, and then we are sort of clinging to our biases and our previous understanding, and yeah. So anyway, I'll just leave it there.
Thank you. Henry, you wanted to say something? Oh,
I was just going to mention there or ask, okay, so when we're coming to the eighth, do we take the eighth more as a symbol than as in a literal sense?
yes, that's how I see it. There was another voice?
Yeah, that was me. That was just to let you know that your time is up.
Oh,
Sorry.
all right.
All right. So we can probably take maybe a 10-minute break
Sure.
and then come back.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Shall we close with a prayer?
Yes, please.
Dear Lord, we come before you at the end of our first study, and we thank you that you guided us through this first hour. It was nice to have a nice discussion, to talk with each other, to be able to ask and answer questions. I've asked, Lord, forgive me if I wasn't clear enough or if I haven't used the right words to clarify things. I pray that you help us to let the things that we talked about, let it sink in and help us to digest it and maybe be able to continue our discussion in our second study, in our second hour in a few minutes. We pray that you continue to be with us also during the break. In Jesus' name we ask and we pray. Amen.